Well, we're back on the water today. It's a nice day in between rubbish weather. There's a lot of weed around today, which is going to make life a bit more difficult for fishing with the lures. And also the water's quite cloudy, so it's not a good day necessarily for that. But we'll try anyway. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try out some of these new lures that you might have seen in the previous video that I put up. I'm going to try this one first, then we'll move on to that one and that one. I've got another rod with me, so I might put 2 lines out. Depends how bad the weed is. I'm going to see how we get on with these. This is quite shiny, so it might be better in these conditions anyway. Now we're going to do this. Then we've got 3 pots out here that we'll check as well at some point. The tide's actually going down. It's been a big tide. That's why there's a lot of weed and murk in the water. With a bit of we've had some bad weather as well. But letting the tide drop, because it's when it's big tides, there's a lot of water out here for a small dinghy. A bit of swell and that, it can be quite dangerous. But as the tide goes down, it should get even calmer, and we'll see how we get on. First thing we've got to check on this reel, on these lures, is do they actually swim properly. That's why I've stopped out here, just to tackle up and see what's what. See how this one swims first, and if it swims at all. Yeah, that's pulling a little bit to my right. Try faster speed. Yeah, it kicks out high speed to the right. So what I'm going to go ahead and do straight away, I've actually got to set in my pocket, is just bend that ring a little bit. You only have to do it a tiny amount usually. Let's try that. Hopefully I bent it the right way. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's much better. Now if I'm saying this right, you bend the ring when if the lure's coming towards you like this, and the lure wants to go to the right, to spin out to the right, then you bend the ring towards that spin out, and it'll counteract it like it is now. I'll just try one more higher speed. Yep, that's perfect. That's staying down. That was just moving that ring like that. So I say bending to the right, actually bending to the left. If it's spinning out that way, you just bend the lure a little bit that way to your left. You'll see, if you bend it the wrong way, it'll spin out the other way, so you'll know you've gone too far. But that's usually how you just straighten it out. Sometimes you've had a battle with a big fish, you just need to correct them, because sometimes you'll lose that swimming. It's not too bad when you're casting, but when you're moving the lure faster, that's when the lure starts to kick out. So in fact, what we'll do is I'll go ahead and set up another one as well, and then when we come back, hopefully we'll be catching some fish. So fishing in the bay isn't going to happen, especially with the tide going out. There's just so much weed in the water. It's everywhere. This is what the problem with lure fishing sometimes, as you see here. It's all that happens, you just keep lining up your hooks with weed, and you're never going to catch fish like that. So we're going to have to try and go deeper. So what I'm going to do is, what if it's a little bit early to go out deep, but we can try a little ways out, and then we'll head out deeper a little bit later. Well, we seem to have picked something up. And it is a fish. Probably going to get both lines caught up here. And it's a garfish. You can see it from here. So this is, I think this is the Dinghy crystal minnow one. like I say, it's not the best of days for fishing, I don't think, with the colour of the water. We've also got that's a big one. Also got our other line. This is the trouble with these things, they just go mental. Now in this instant these small hooks would have worked in our favour because they obviously have that long beak. Just trying to get that line off. Oh, I'll get to that in a minute. So there you go, that's a nice garfish that. Let's see if we can get him out the line before he gets tangled up again. There we go. So first fish on the on that lure. So it does work. Works for long nose. So something's just grabbed hold of the Zebco Blaster. We changed lures out. I think it might still be on. It might have come off actually. Nope. There it is. Just wondering actually if it is actually a long nose that's playing with it. It's hard to say, it's not very big. It might be long nose. Done a couple of trails, but like I've said before, the water's so murky. It's terrible conditions for trying to trail lures. I mean, if it does pass a fish, you'll snap at it, that's for sure in these conditions, but I don't know, it's a pollock. Well, there we go. So that's for this little just take it off. There you go. That was caught with that one. The Blaster, so that one does work. I mean, usually when you catch fish with the lures, it shows the lure is working, its movement and that. The rest of it quite often is down to colour, and I know these colours would work for bass and things, so all the signs are good. Usually, I've got hundreds of lures, thousands even, and if they don't work, they generally just don't work, or they don't swim properly, or they just don't catch. It's not often I've got lures that, I mean, I've got lures that catch the odd fish, but not more than that. Like I say, usually they're just rubbish right from the start. But this is positive, especially in these conditions. So it's going to be, I'm going to be trialling these a lot more, obviously, when we get better conditions. But no, this is a good start. Right, well, I've decided to pack it in for today because, well, I'll show you. That's why. It's just, I've come back in. I mean, we were out deeper. We had a couple of fish, but like I said, the water's not clear enough, really. And decided to come back in on the shallower reefs, see if we could find any fish. But I'm just going through rafts and rafts of weed, and it's just getting frustrating now. So, I'm going to go and check the pots I put down, and then head back. Right, before we go and look at the pots, I thought we'd have a quick look at the rod and reel we're using. So basically this is just a Fladden Avant-Garde. It was a cheap rod that I bought somewhere for a few pounds about 20 years ago, I think, with this cheap reel. Again, this was literally a few pounds. I bought these when I was up in Sweden just for fishing in the lakes and that. And I mean, these rods that I'm using here, I've taken up to 12-pound pike on before. You can see it's a very small reel by the size of my hand. You don't get much line on them. You get, what are they giving here? Well, pounds wise, if you put, what's the maximum? If you put 10-pound line on, you've got 140 yards, 130 metres, so you don't get much, but it's enough for trailing just in the dinghy. It's just a little 2-piece rod. And the other one is little Abu 553, it's called. Garcia one. Again, this holds probably a little bit less line. And the rod came with it. It was just a pack, this. I think I paid 20-30 quid for this at the time. Basically, it's just a little telescopic rod. You just do that. I normally carry this one just in the box because that way I can fish or I don't have to fish. I just, you know, it's not too much hassle. Now, I wouldn't recommend necessarily that you use gear like this. I'm using this more for fun. I have taken this off the shore spinning as well and caught bass and that on it. It's held up to about, I've caught up to about 4-pound bass on this before. So, but it's just a really convenient little rod to use. Like I say, it's not what I would normally necessarily take, but it works perfectly fine. And like I say, it's more of a convenience thing at the moment in the little dinghy. And it's fun to use something a bit lighter and a bit smaller. If I was getting into some bigger fish, I'd bring out my other rods, which we can look at another time. But again, it's a tiny little reel. I can cover it in my hand. But it does the trick. And like I say, it is fun to use. So the pots that we've got here, this is an area I haven't, I've moved the pots here the other day. I have potted here years ago and did catch lobsters quite well. But in recent years, I just haven't bothered with this area. It just hasn't been producing, so. But like I say, it's been a few years since I've bothered putting pots here, but we'll see. Hopefully, there'll be something in them. I know one thing, the rocks are awfully close under my boat. So today's really a bit of a test with these to see if it's worth potting here a little bit longer. Now the pots have been down for about 3 days, so they've had plenty of time. This one I plonked in the middle, the other one I plonked more on the reef. So normally you can see the bottom, but like I've said several times, it's so murky you can't even see the bottom, so, even when it's shallow. Well, there is a lobster in there. There's 2 lobsters in there even, and a crab. So maybe it is worth potting here. Now, one of those lobsters I think is a bit small. Let's hook them out and have a look. It's only got 1 claw, that one. Now this I think is too small. We'll have a look. It is actually size. I thought that would be too small, but it's not. So that is a size lobster. It's probably because it's only got 1 claw that it looks small. Right, and the other one is a bigger lobster. He says it's got bigger claws. Does that mean it's a bigger lobster? And that size as well. So that's nice. 2 lobsters in that pot, and there's not a bad crab. Now the crab I think's only got 1 claw, but it's quite a decent sized crab, so we'll hook that out and take a look. these crabs, they cling on. But that's it's only got one claw, but it's a massive claw. That'll be fine. I'll keep that for myself. It's been a while since I've had crab, so I get a nice bit of meat out of this crab. It's a good start. Right, we'll get this baited and then I'll go and check the other pot. Right, next pot. It's going to be a bit more tricky. This is going to actually probably have to go onto the rock. And you can see the rock right there. Pretty damn close. We might even touch it. Right, let's get... we're alright. We're okay. You see all the rocks down here, they're very close to the boat, but this is where you want your pots. And this one is down the side here. It's quite shallow, you can see the pot actually. Right. I should have put it a little bit deeper. We were sort of on the side of the reef, but you never know. Yeah, empty pot. Very empty. We've got no bait at all either. Strikes me the stuff's getting out this pot. I mean, it did need to be on the side. There must be a hole in it somewhere. Right, well, I'll bait it up again and throw it down. I'll check it over and maybe something just got back out, and that can happen.